This is KGW News at noon.
Good afternoon, I'm Drew Carney, and we start today's News at Noon with a homicide investigation in the Buckman neighborhood of Southeast Portland. Police say it began with a welfare check at the corner of Southeast Water Avenue and Salmon Street around 9:30 last night. When they arrived there, officers found a man who they believe was shot to death. So far, police haven't made any arrests and haven't given us any details on a suspect. Also in Southeast Portland, police are still looking for the suspect in an armed robbery that happened around 5 o'clock last night at a smoke shop on Southeast 123rd and Powell. Officers spotted someone who they thought was the suspect. That person hopped in a car and led officers on a chase. They wound up chasing and crashing a few blocks away. Running from the scene, that's when police initiated a shelter in place for residents in the Powellhurst-Gilbert neighborhood. So that order was lifted a short time later when police realized that the person involved in that car chase was likely not the suspect involved in the armed robbery. The National Transportation and Safety Board is back inside Boeing's plant in Renton, Washington today to continue the investigation into safety lapses on the 737 MAX 9 assembly line. One of our biggest stories this month was the door plug on a Boeing-made Alaska Airlines plane that blew out mid-flight after taking off from Portland. Investigators are looking into whether the door plug's bolts were missing on that plane before it took off. While that's happening, Alaska Airlines is also expecting some of its MAX 9s to return to the air after a nationwide grounding of the plane. But the FAA is still capping expanded production of new Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircrafts, which happen to be Boeing's biggest moneymaker.
How can they do this, right? And it's become pretty clear that they can because they're in charge of inspecting and certifying each and every individual 737 MAX, and they might not have the resources. But that, too, is a key issue, whether Congress and the government provide the FAA with the resources needed to expand.
Analysts say it's too early to say whether a slowdown for Boeing will help competitors like Airbus. Some airlines have said they're considering alternatives to Boeing-made planes, but there are very few options and long waiting lists.
They have a special relationship with Boeing, and the former CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes, Ray Conner, is on the board of Alaska. So there are deep ties there. That is aviation expert Scott Hamilton, talking about how unlikely it is for Alaska Airlines to part ways with Boeing as its plane supplier. Alaska says it expects to lose around $150 million after its MAX 9 fleet was grounded for more than 2 weeks. According to Hamilton, though, that's a cost that Alaska will push onto Boeing. For Alaska, it's not anything that will put them in jeopardy. They're going to file a big claim with Boeing and say, you got to make us whole. A new proposed law one more note to this story. Alaska said they do expect to complete their own inspections on all of their MAX 9s over the course of the next week. Now we get to that new proposed law in Washington that could raise the penalty for people convicted of animal abuse in the state. So right now, animal cruelty in the first degree is a felony in Washington, carrying up to 5 years in prison, a fine of up to $10,000, or both. The proposed bill is sponsored by Washington State Representative Sam Lowe, and it aims to elevate the crime from a regular felony to a ranked felony.
Elevating it to a ranked crime would add it to the sentencing guidelines grid, creating consistency for the judges, prosecutors, prosecuting attorneys.
So as a ranked felony, anyone convicted of animal cruelty could face even more jail time, especially in severe cases. All right, let's take a look to the skies now, and a rainy lens on our camera out there overlooking downtown Portland here, our Wells Fargo Skycam on this drippy Friday afternoon. Special guest in the Weather Center filling in for Rod Hill today is Daisy Caballero. Let's talk more about that rain, Daisy.
Yeah, hey Drew, thank you so much. And yes, let's talk about it because it's going to be sticking around not just for today and tomorrow and into the weekend, really for the next 7 days. But this specific system that we have seen arrive within the last 6 hours alone is an atmospheric river, again, that has been bringing our valleys, of course, some much needed rain and some snow into those higher elevations. So looking at our rain totals so far today, really the bulk of all the action has really stayed south and west of the Portland metro area. As you can see here, Vancouver and Portland, really just seeing a few traces inches of rain, but a little bit more as we're looking over in Hillsborough, 0.2 of an inch over in McMinnville, and nearing 0.2 of an inch also for parts along the coastline. But like I said, snow in the higher elevations. Timberline has actually already seen 10 inches of fresh new snowpack within the last 72 hours. And more, of course, is also on the way. Really quick look at your current temperatures. 45 degrees for Forest Grove, 47 out in Hillsborough. Check out the coast, though. My hometown of North Bend, 54 degrees. So this is what you can expect today for your Portland, Vancouver, and Longview areas. Mid to upper 40s for your daytime highs. But again, we have a lot more to talk about coming up in my full forecast.
We'll have more from the pride of North Bend, Daisy Caballero, coming up here. Yeah, in a few minutes, Daisy. Thank you for that. All right, more news headlines this afternoon. Starting next Tuesday, students who attend Portland's Robert Gray Middle School are going to temporarily shift to Jackson Middle School. The Robert Gray building suffered some major damage during last week's weather. There's also a community meeting tomorrow morning for families with kids who attend Robert Gray and Markham Elementary. Markham was another Portland school that was seriously damaged during last week's weather events. At tomorrow's meeting, Portland Public Schools Chief of Staff Jonathan Garcia will share details on the district's plan to relocate kids at both of those schools. It's happening at Portland Community College's Sylvania campus from 8:30 to 10 a.m. Portland City Commissioner Dan Ryan says he is going to run for one of the 12 seats on Portland's new city council. In fact, he made that announcement yesterday during a taping of Straight Talk with Laurel Porter. If he's elected, Ryan would represent the brand new District 2 in the city of Portland. Meanwhile, his fellow commissioners, Mingus Mapps, Renee Gonzalez, and Carmen Rubio, have all said that they're going to run for mayor. A new report shows lead levels are dropping in Portland's drinking water. That's based on samples from homes that previously had issues with high lead levels. So the report comes from the Portland Water Bureau, and it shows lead is still being detected, but it's now in compliance with federal safety standards. A new treatment system is being credited for the improvement here. Part of the problem with the water in the area, it has a naturally low pH, which can cause corrosion in pipes. So here's a quick explainer of the science behind the fix.
And we're just adding sodium carbonate. It's just like baking soda to the water. So it's and then carbon dioxide to balance it out. But we're adjusting it to what the level. The number is 27 milligrams per liter. This adjustment is really pretty minor in the scheme of things, and it's really just to help stabilize our pH adjustment throughout the system more than really affecting people's tastes.
The Water Bureau also says that most lead exposure doesn't come from the city's system, but rather pipes in older homes, usually ones built between 1970 and 1985. By the way, free lead testing kits are available through the county's website. You can check out leadline.org. That's leadline.org for more info. Quick traffic heads up this afternoon. The Morrison Bridge is going to be closed this weekend, starting tonight at 8 o'clock through 5 o'clock Monday morning. Crews have maintenance and cleanup work to do on the bridge's gears. That work, by the way, will also happen next weekend, so the bridge is going to be closed again, same time frame, next Friday night through early the following Monday morning. Well, after nearly 20 years in Portland's Pearl District, REI is shutting down that location next week, saying a sharp rise in retail theft and break-ins are two of the big reasons why. KGW's City Dorner has more after speaking to some loyal REI customers.
Aiden Elmore just moved to Portland. He says REI is one of the most affordable places where he can get his bike tires changed.
You get a lifetime membership for $30 and you get free tire changes after you buy the tube. And it takes your cost down from going to a local bike shop from $25 to $6.
Soon, Aiden will have to find a new place to work on his bike. REI in the Pearl District will close February 1st, throwing their hands up after stating they had a year-long battle with theft and break-ins.
They have theft down there that's almost twice as bad as it is up here, but you still see big box stores operating and functioning in Dallas and other bigger cities like Chicago and Philadelphia and whatnot.
Stacey Howard hikes, kayaks, and skis, so she's at this REI about twice a month. She says this is a big loss for many people like her who use a bike to get around and appreciate the central location.
I know a lot of businesses have had to bar up their windows. I know a lot of businesses have had to, hire more security guards or a different system to stop the majority of the theft. I don't know what the solution here is for them.
REI says they had outgrown the location and as a result are not able to provide the level of customer and employee experience they strive for. Walter Weiler from the Downtown Neighborhood Association says we can't expect retailers to pay for lost goods plus additional security.
It's endemic right now. It's not just REI, it's several other stores. And it has to do with the nature of the city right now. Our city allows it much more than is comfortable.
Weiler believes the city can slow down theft, but thinks it will take time. Sydney Dorner, KGW News.